For the first time in our history of the NBHL, we are heading down to the Lone Star State in Texas, a 3-team division. Now, because it is so small, everyone will get to play in the playoffs this weekend. But we need to bring in someone who knows a lot more about this division. Texas has their own commentator, so we'll bring into the show Chris Vanasdlen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, so before we get into the Texas division, so I've got my start in commentary doing some videos in my local league in Raleigh. So how'd you come about doing your commentary?
Well, actually very similar to you in Raleigh. So I've been in video production for a good little while, mostly on the editing side, but I do some camera work here and there as well. And when I joined our local league in Austin, Texas Ball Hockey, I came up with the idea about doing some recordings for our YouTube channel just to kind of show some games and stuff. And then as time progressed, we just naturally went into live streaming and I started setting all that up. And then I wasn't doing commentary at first. I was just kind of standing there behind the camera. It was kind of boring. So then one day I just decided to start talking. And now here I am.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I've done. I mean, I've just had videos set up around and just started talking myself. So you're very similar to what I did. What made you go into ball hockey in particular?
Honestly, that was just kind of on a whim. I'm originally from Alaska, so I grew up around hockey and playing hockey. I've never played it, I didn't play it in school or anything like that, just recreationally. Around all the numerous rinks we had around in the neighborhoods and stuff. And after I moved out of there, I was in a different state for about 10 years. And then I was moving to Austin, and just on a whim, I was like, hey, is there any hockey in Texas? That'd be kind of weird. And did some looking and came across ball hockey. And I was like, oh, ball hockey. I've never played that before. I mean, similar to street hockey, of course, but different. So yeah, just the first week I got here, I went down and checked out one of their league nights and played some pickup with them and fell in love, man.
Yeah. You were from Alaska. I mean, how's the environment? I mean, that's got to be a really big change coming from Alaska. I know you said you went to another state for 10 years and then went to Texas. I mean, how big of a change is that for you?
Huge, huge. I left Alaska in 2007, and I've yet to acclimate to the humidity down on the coast, which is where I was living before I moved here, and then to especially the heat wave we're having right now. It's brutal. It's brutal on me, for sure. I mean, I don't help myself, stay cool or anything, but yeah, I have not acclimated at all. So it's definitely
believe me, we deal with a lot of humidity over here in North Carolina, and we get a lot more than that. We get hurricanes like every year. So you're not the only one. So you go into Texas and you managed to find a league because not a lot of people think about hockey in Texas. I mean, we do have the Dallas Stars that do play. They've been there since the early 90s, if my memory serves me correctly. How's really the hockey environment there? What's the community like for it in Texas?
Well, actually, it's really good. It could be better, of course, but in terms of hockey in general as a sport, I mean, Austin is the home of the Texas Stars, the AHL affiliate for the Dallas Stars. So there's that, which is nice. So we do have an ice rink. There are a couple recreational ice rinks around as well that do league play for ice hockey and things like that. Unfortunately, there's not too many rinks right now, if any, in the Austin area for deck hockey or ball hockey. We do have one out in Kyle that Texas Ball Hockey is playing out of, as well as the Austin Arsenal. But in a sense, I mean, there's a lot of hockey people here. There's a lot of hockey families, a lot of hockey friends, and there's a lot of big gatherings. They do watch parties at one of the rinks for the Dallas Stars on occasion and on the Texas Stars when they're on the road. And it's always a good time, a lot of good people. Yeah, so I'd say it's healthy. I'd say it's definitely healthy here.
So have you gotten any help as trying to expand on rinks? Because we've we've been in talks with our own team here as far as expanding on rinks. What are you doing to try to help expand it?
Well, talks have been made with a couple of interested parties in terms of investors and things like that about starting something from scratch. Other talks have been made, partnerships with the Texas Stars. Nothing as far as like getting an actual rink or anything going, but Texas Ball Hockey has done promotions with them. We've done cross nights where we've got to go out and do like chuck-a-pucks or just things like that, where they basically help promote us, which has always been fun. It's always been a very good partnership between the two of us. And in terms of that, that's really about it, man. There's not a whole lot of land available, really. And the land that is available is kind of pricey right now. So unfortunately, it's, I wouldn't say that it's kind of hopeless, but it is definitely difficult right now.
Difficult, I think was the right word for it.
Yeah.
But let's go into some actual Texas ball hockey. You got 3 teams. All of them will be participating in playoffs because it is a small division. So how would you describe the kind of play that Texas brings?
Well, I would describe it as competitive for sure. And also pretty well balanced between all 3 teams, especially this season. You know, the scoreboard, if you look at the standings, it doesn't really reflect that right at the moment. You know, one team, I will not name, but you can look and see. One team has had a hard time finding some W's, but that's not for lack of competitiveness. It's mainly just, they just haven't found the back of the net a whole lot. And that happens.
And I do know which one you're talking about. And I believe their only win was against, was it Red River?
I believe so. Yes. Back on our first weekend. In Texas, we do weekends. So 1 weekend a month, and we play all our games. We knock them out on Saturday and Sunday.
And so with these 3 teams here, yeah, I see a big rubber going on. And I do remember from last season that there was a big upset. I think the favorite was Red River to make it to the Mila Cup, but they got upset. But what do you see in Red River that can push them over to try to make it to the Mila Cup this time?
Well, I would say you're very correct. Yes, Red River was definitely the favorite to win going into the playoffs last season, and they were definitely upset by Austin, who just pulled out all the stops, maybe had a little bit of luck on their side, and got the W's they needed to move on. This year, you know, Red River has gone through a roster change, but I think it was for the better. You know, they're not out there stomping, you know, the teams left and right, but all around they definitely seem more well balanced. And if you check out on the NBHL YouTube channel some of our footage from last month's games, you'll definitely see that Red River is no slouch. They are definitely here, and they are pushing to make sure they go to Jersey this year.
And let's talk about some of the players. One of the more notable players on Red River is Josh Laudato. He has 6 goals and 8 assists, but he's got a big rival with the Austin Arsenal, Mike Brandemardo, who has 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points. One of the very few players around the NBHL that has made it to the 20-point club. So what is it about these 2 players that I need to watch for? What kind of skills are we looking for?
Mike Brandemardo I've known him for a couple of years, and he definitely knows his spots. He knows where he needs to be. His team knows where he should be, and he's generally always there, and he can take it in right over the blue line and run it right up to the net if you hesitate for just a second. Josh Laudato, I've been watching him more this season than I was last season. I'm not even 100% sure if he was on Red River last season, and that's, you know, my fault there for not being 100% sure, but he's definitely looking great and bringing the fire for Red River. the competitiveness between the two, it's going to be something to see. I'm really looking forward to it, especially in the playoffs, and see what each one of them brings.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Dallas Fort Worth Marksmen. The more notable, I am noticing that they are kind of more balanced, shall we say. The two currently on the top on that team are the Sy brothers, Harry and Jackson, 8 and 7 points respectively. And you said earlier that they are a skillful team, but just hasn't had luck go their way. So let's talk about the positives with them. So the Marksmen, what do you think that is their best quality? What makes them a competitive team?
Honestly, I would say their determination and their heart, I mean, is number one. On top of that, they do have some pretty strong offense. They really do, especially like you said, between the size. They, again, know where to be and know how to pass and know how to get it to the people they need to get it to. Unfortunately, the goalies have just been better this year for both Arsenal and Red River.
And that's pretty much what I would think would happen, because we've seen that when we were in Philadelphia last week, and no one could figure out, especially with the Del Valle Kingsmen. I mean, they are a skilled team and they have a hard time getting to the net. So I completely understand where the Marksmen are coming from.
Yeah, yes, very true, very true. But I mean, like you said at the beginning, we are one of the few divisions where every team does find their way into the playoffs. So, you know, who knows? Marksmen could really bring it out and maybe surprise us all.
And I wouldn't be surprised, because like I said, we did see an upset last year. So let's talk about, we do have other divisions that have their playoffs coming up. And of course, Texas is going to have theirs shortly. But you got some competition this year, especially out of the Detroit and Philadelphia tiers. Everyone has their eyes on Detroit, where the Knight Riders, they are currently the favorites, with the Pottstown Mud Dogs not too far behind. Of course, let's not forget about California, Carolina. There's plenty of competition to look at. So now, no matter who it is out of Texas that comes out, what is it that they need to really step it up in the Milet Cup?
Well, so the only thing that I can really speak to is what happened to the Texas division when they went to the Milet Cup last year. Anybody who watched that, saw that, they kind of got blown out. They really did. They were also in tier 2 last year as well. So adjustments were made. Here they are in the Texas division in tier 3. I would say, you know, just really work on cohesion as a team. Make sure your players are in their positions, passing well, and driving the offense, but not forgetting about your defense as well. That's key. That really is key, especially with a lot of these teams, you know, from the Northeast that play a little bit of different kind of hockey than we play here in Texas for the most part. So it's I would say it's definitely a bit more competitive up there than it is down here. So if they go in expecting that and prepared for it, I think they really stand a chance. Any team that comes out of Texas.
And let's end things off here. I mean, that last question I gave is usually the last question I give to anyone that speaks with me on the show. But for you, I got something a little different. I want to ask you something that another person asked me several years ago about my commentary. What inspirations do you have? What commentator do you see as your main inspiration? What kind of style do you borrow from?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I like to think of myself as a little bit different in terms of my style of commentary than most sports broadcasters. And it's not necessarily intentional. It's just the way that I got into doing the commentary and the league that I was doing it with. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we were just a beer league and we were just live streaming on our Facebook page for fun. So the commentary kind of reflected that. And then of course, coming into the NBHL, I've tried to make it a little bit more professional, but while also still keeping, my personality and my style. With that said, I grew up a Ducks fan. I still am a Ducks fan. And I would argue with anybody that John Allers and Brian, I'm drawing a blank on his last name right now.
I want to say was it Burke?
No.
I'm guessing, so don't hold me to it.
My apologies, Brian, if you happen to see this. I do forget your last name. But John Allers and Brian for the Ducks, I would argue with anybody that in terms of their biases, that they are one of the best commentating team in the NHL right now. And the reason why I say that is because, they're not out there praising the Ducks left and right. When the Ducks make a mistake, which often happens, they'll be the first ones to call it out, point it out, and, scold them, basically kind of through the commentary. And I have a lot of respect for that because it's, it's true. Me personally, I live here in Austin. I'm associated with the Texas Ball Hockey League, where the Austin Arsenal are coming out of. So I know those guys the best. I've been around them for years. However, I don't go into our Texas division, rooting for Austin or bad mouthing any other team or, anything like that. It's about, respecting the game and respecting all the players out there that are giving it their all. So to answer your question, I would say those two are definitely my main inspiration. There's a few others out there. A funny one is Brockmeyer. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that show, but he was a baseball commentator. It's a television show. It's on Hulu. Not for the kiddies. Just passing that out there if you guys decide to check it out. But his humor that he brings to his commentary is also a little inspiration of mine as well. So I like to keep it light and fun and just make sure that not only am I having a good time, but everybody watching is having a good time as well. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I especially like the commentators that give a balanced perspective. I mean, I understand that some regional broadcasters will have their personal biases for their own team, but they keep it in check. And in fact, I've had someone from Massachusetts last year, which I kind of poked fun at a certain Boston commentator, which I will not name. But Chris, thank you for coming on, and let's have ourselves some Texas hockey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Enjoy the game, everyone.